the same taste. Blue, 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 we like the same faces. Grinding day and night, I need a vacation. Bring my little baby, it's a vacation. I get some bands and I get some bands and my little baby, yeah. I get some bands and I get some bands and my little baby, yeah. I get some bands and I get some bands and my little baby, yeah. I get some bands and I get some bands and my little baby, yeah. It's not tricking if she's yours, so no, I'm spending, yeah. If I got it, then she got it, tell her spend it, yeah. What I own and know she owns enough and rent it, yeah. If I'm dipping, tell her slide, it's no question she gon' ride. Tell her count it up, make sure it's all there. We were down and out, this gon' be all, yeah. I get some bands and I get some bands and my little baby, yeah. I get some bands and I get some bands and tell her spend it, yeah. I get some bands and I get some bands and my little baby, yeah. I get some bands and I get some bands and my little baby, yeah. I get some bands and I get some bands and my little baby, yeah. I get some bands and I get some bands and my little baby, yeah.
Good morning, all you happy people across the United States. Thank you for joining. You have reached the High Five, brought to you by Paper Tech. And today we're going to talk about, we have a little, in case you missed it, big news story yesterday. I want to see if Brian and Danny know about that. We're going to talk about who is the best to play you in a movie. I can't wait to hear what Brian Linke has to say. We're going to talk some sales strategies and how we bring value. We're going to talk about some opening principles and making sure we're communicating with customers. All this and so much more on the High Five. Let's have some fun. Go.
The time has come. The questions are set. Opinions high. Discussions are led. Show about nothing and everything. It's all the same. We've got sports, entertainment, sales, and marketing. Time for the High Five. We got it all covered. It's time for the High Five. We got it all covered. Yeah. The High Five.
The High Five, everybody. Welcome. I am so glad that we're all together. And so in just a moment, I'm going to bring up, let's not wait any longer. Let's bring up the men, the myths, the legends on the left-hand side from Winona Lake, Indiana. Nope, sorry. I always say that. From Warsaw, Indiana, because he's from a much bigger city than Winona Lake. There are 4 more ducks in Warsaw than there are in Winona Lake. He drives around in a swag wagon. He lives the dream. He's pimping and driving all the way in Warsaw. Mr. Brian Linke, how are you, sir?
Okay, let me tell you something. I'm better now, right now, Nate, after that introduction. Okay. There's no way that Danny Shard is going to one-up me on this one. I'm really, really good, Nate. Thanks for asking, and let's get going.
Let's get Schwagwagon.
Oh.
Did I hear Schwagwagon in there?
I like that. Nobody's ever said that to me before.
All right, and let's make sure we go to the right-hand side of the screen as you're looking at everybody there. The man who I know, I'm pretty sure last night, told me that he hit 4 par 5s in 4 shots. That's what he told me. Do we believe him? I don't know. But he is a myth and a legend. He is getting ready, and he's ready to step in for Tiger Woods next weekend on TNT. He's been called already to step in for Ricky Fowler. He's getting his golf clubs already and cleaned up. He's got his bag ready. He's a golf legend, but he's a payments legend as well. Mr. Danny Shard, how are you, sir?
I don't think that even comes close to Brian's. Mine just topped it incredibly. 4. Did I hear a 4 on 4 par 5s? I did make a 4 on 4 par 5s, so I birdied all the par 5s yesterday. It was a good day, kicking off our men's club that we do every Tuesday night now in the summertime. So it's good. Glad to be out there again, and glad to be on with all of you on the High Five this morning.
Oh, look at that. Thanks to everybody who's watching. I see some people jumping in and getting ready. What I didn't realize yesterday, Danny, you didn't make it really clear. Yesterday was the mark of the first of summer, the men's club. So we're now officially summer. I mean, that's you tell us, right? So it's summer.
Yeah, that's every year. It usually kicks off in end of April. So not too far behind here. A couple weeks later in mid-May, we kicked it off, and it goes all the way through September. So that's that's kind of my sign that summer's kicking off, that we're in the Tuesday men's golf league.
Oh, I am so excited to hear that because I'm so ready for summer. It's at least sunny outside here today. Still a little chilly, but I looked at the long-term forecast, which sometimes I don't do, and I saw that like in Indiana, we're going to have at least in Indianapolis, 5 or 6 days in a row where the highs are in the upper 70s and lower 80s. And I was like, oh, thank goodness, because it's been a little chilly. But hey, we are rolling. Let's get ready for number one. Number one is a thing I like to call, in case you missed it. I saw a big news story. It was one that it was such a big news story that I clipped it right away and sent it to my daughter and my kids and was talking to them about it last night. Brian, Danny, did you hear the big news story of what's coming to Disney Plus on July 3rd?
That would be a no.
I did not hear this. No.
All right, so this is what's fascinating to me. On July 3rd, Disney paid $75 million for something that they were planning in 2021 to release to theaters. So a year later, and was going to be probably Memorial Day 2021 was their plan. They changed their mind because of everything that's going on. They spent $75 million just to buy the rights to this product. Any ideas, guesses that what this product is that they spent $75 million that they're bringing to Disney Plus on July 3rd? This is an advertisement for Disney right here.
No.
All right.
That would be a no.
Well, let me get it. You guys can't see my video, so they'll have to watch this later. Alexander Hamilton. I'll tell you, Alexander Hamilton. Any ideas?
Bad singing. I don't know. That's the first thing that came to my mind.
All right. So Lin-Manuel Miranda is the largest Broadway show of ever, the pop sensation. It goes all over. My kids are huge fans of Hamilton. Hamilton had a professional recording of the first cast. They'd been sitting on it. It was apparently incredible, but they'd never done anything with it. They were shopping it, trying to decide. Obviously, when you release something like that, where it's a video of the stage productions, you'll limit some of the people wanting to go see it. So you didn't know when it was going to happen. They had a bidding process, I think last year sometime. Disney steps in, pays $75 million for the footage, which is a pretty good budget. I would say, they did all right there. And was planning to have, a big release in theaters, but they're going to release it to Disney Plus on July 3rd. One, are you guys excited for this? And two, are you Hamiltonites? I don't know what you call that. Number three, what does this say about the future of media and movies and television? Something that they'd spent $75 million, they're just releasing to something you can get for $6.99 a month.
That's crazy. I know that you're a Hamiltonite.
Yeah.
Didn't you take Audra to New York?
Well, we did not see Hamilton. She has seen Hamilton. I have seen Hamilton, but we did not. I could not get the tickets because until you guys go out and sell some more out of Paperotech, I couldn't afford the New York City Hamilton. But I've seen it in Chicago, and but yes, I'm a huge Hamiltonite.
I can tell you, me and Brian are just not as seasoned in the Hamilton world as Nate Manahan. So I just don't have a comment on this. I think it's pretty cool though that you're seeing a Broadway show go into some type of subscription thing that everybody can enjoy. That's cool.
What's number two?
All right. Well, here's the thing. I'm going to leave my own commentary because I think this is huge in the world of people. We have the fight going on between AMC and I forget which movie theater it is. Amazon is rumored to possibly be in the takes of buying the AMC theaters. This coronavirus is going to fast forward a crisis that was going to have, which is live entertainment, that was already happening in the movie industry. Do people want to go watch a movie? What do they want when they go watch a movie? And how much money can you make out of something that goes direct to the screens, like a Disney Plus or the aforementioned Peacock or Netflix or Hulu or whatever those are. And so there's a crisis going on when it comes to media, really distribution and consumption. And it's a good crisis. I think it's going to come up for a better price at the end. I hope the consumer win. Right now, the consumer's being nickeled and dimed to death with 40 different options. But it shows that Disney says we can make more money by getting people to continually buy Disney Plus, and they're not going to cancel the subscription by putting it out July 3rd. Let's celebrate America. Here we go, fireworks and all. And Hamilton, congratulations. You are changing the whole layout of media. All right, number 2, Brian, you wanted to go to it. We're staying in the media phrase here before we get into some business questions next. I have a just interested idea. I know who I'm going to choose for myself. Who would play you in a movie? Who would you want it to be? And if it's different, who do you think it should be? Obviously, we all have aspirational ideas that maybe we're a little better looking than we are. So, Mr. Brian Linke, let's go first with you. Who say you? Who's going to play you?
Well, back in the day, I can tell you this. When Officer and the Gentleman first came out, everyone said that I looked exactly like Richard Gere, which I'll take it. But if I was going to pick somebody, and again, this is an easy one for me. I mean, this is simple. Mark Wahlberg.
Mark Wahlberg, Marky Mark, going. Oh,
okay, let me tell you, Boogie Nights. Let me tell you something. I fit right in that. You kidding me?
Woo! Yeah,
What?
Mark Wahlberg, I love it.
What's Danny doing?
I'm calling you Dirk from now on.
Thank you.
That's it. Okay.
All right, so Mark
I totally did not expect that.
Mark Wahlberg over here. Oh man.
Mark Wahlberg, that's an easy one.
I totally did not expect that.
Well, he just got to kind of move his Boston accent to a little bit of a Long Island drawl, and we're all set. So, all right.
It's an easy one.
All right, Danny Shard, what say you?
Oh, gosh. That's tough to follow up. Okay, you got Wahlberg and Linky. That makes sense.
Thank you.
This one was tough for me. I don't think of things like this, but I'd say one of my all-time favorite actors I would want to play me, and that would be Bill Murray.
Oh, going comedy with the career. I liked that, Danny. Like of all of his movies, his parts, how do you see him playing you? What of his roles? Is he more of a Groundhog Day, Ghostbusters, Bill Murray? What about Bob Bill Murray? Which one?
You guys are gonna laugh. 100% Caddyshack, Bill Murray.
Yeah, that I should have come up with that for you. I feel I'm ashamed that I did not come up with that.
It's the Cinderella story. He's about 437 yards. Looks like he's got about an 8-iron, and it's in the hole. All right, okay, that's me. That's Bill Murray.
All right, Janice is playing along in one of the comments I can see. She's watching on my watch party, so I can see hers. Brian, she says, you should be Bruce Willis. And Danny, you're John Krasinski. You guys are looking good. All right, hey, I like that.
I'll take that.
A little Bruce some good Willis. News.
I'll take Bruce Willis.
I get that. Oh, man. All right.
Thank you, Janice.
So, and I'm going with mine because I can't give a question that I'm not willing to answer. I'm going the man who played the Hulk himself in the latter half of the Hulk's career, Mr. Mark Ruffalo. I've just resonate with him. Some of his roles. I was a fan of him in the Avengers. I don't know that I want to be the Hulk, but certainly Mark Ruffalo, that was who I was going to choose for me. All right.
Well done. I like that.
Oh, Brian Linke, also Joe Pesci. That's another one that's being shared in here with Josh Brown.
Okay.
All right, some good banter. I'm always interested in doing things like this to get a little insight behind our personalities, who we see ourselves, and then also whether we've even heard of Hamilton before. Something, that, hey, it was a major thing that happened in the world, but maybe we missed it. That's why we do, in case you missed it. Number 3 today. This is something I thought of as I always take everything, because apparently everything in my life somehow goes back to Michael Jordan in The Last Dance. It may be because it's the only live thing, so maybe when I become a golf fan this Sunday, when that's live, and it doesn't charge me like UFC did, which I'm not willing to pay. Here we go. Arrogance versus confidence. There is a fine line, and we struggle to try to figure out what is the difference, because we need confidence. And as salespeople in our career, or people, because everyone's a salesman at the end of the day, that's a whole nother rant I can get on, but we have to present ourselves with confidence and humility. There's a fine line. And then that line between confidence and arrogance? Because arrogance to me is that tipping over at some point where you start breaking down the culture and you lose the people around you. Gentlemen, how do you define the difference between confidence and arrogance, and what are the woes that happen when you start seeing arrogance?
I'll go first. Again, I think you're right, Nate. There is a fine line. However, and again, I'm trying right now to teach my son who just moved into the house last year, know the room, right? And I think that's where the fine line is. To be confident is one thing. I think arrogance, you start tipping on the side of arrogance when you don't know the room. You can push your confidence to a certain point, but if you don't know the room, if you don't know the people in it, if you don't, if you don't take all of that into consideration, I think then you tip onto the arrogance part, and people start looking at you in a different way. So I think if you know the room, and again, this is a sales show, right? So. And I'm a hands-on guy. I'm a contact guy, and once you get to know the room and you kind of get a sense for it, I think you can keep that middle of the road thing where arrogance is right at the tipping point, but it doesn't go overboard as long as you know who's in the room.
Brian, I think you're totally right. There is that tipping point, knowing the room, reading what's going around outside of you. Danny, for you, we should talk briefly before this. I mean, this is something we think about a lot. And do you notice because you meet a lot of people, especially via phone, for the first time, and can you read people? And is there a difference when you're first meeting someone, whether they're confident and arrogant?
I think so. And really it's, to me, it's the difference between being confident means, you're knowledgeable, but yet coachable. So you're still learning and somewhat humble, right? I mean, you're still open, but you're knowledgeable, you're educated, and you're not afraid to show that. But Brian, I mean, that's a great thing to say, know the room, right? I mean, that's really how you display your confidence or arrogance, and who the people are around you that see that. And then I think on the arrogant side is when, that's more cocky and uncoachable and not open or listening to anything else other people have to say, just really close-minded. And I think it's something that all of us, especially like in this industry, for example, been in this industry for a long time. I myself, I know it's easy to get arrogant, right? I know more than you kind of mentality that a lot of people can have. And I think that's where, people need to identify that and reel themselves in. Brian is a great coach for me in that aspect too. So thank you, Brian, keeping me in line from being too arrogant and keeping me confident.
You're welcome, Dan. But Danny hit on a point we talked about. We've talked about this numerous times. Listening is a huge thing. So like knowing the room, yeah, okay. I mean, you're in there and you're talking. But if you get in there and you start listening to what people say, I think you can easily separate arrogance from confidence.
Totally.
Patrick Lencioni says that a person, when you're specifically when you're hiring people, he says you want to look for people who are hungry, humble, and smart, and that those hungry and humble are those first two things, and smart is different defined than just intelligence. So, and I don't want to go into a whole part of that, but I was thinking to myself when it comes, confidence is the perfect balance of hungry and humble. And you walk in, you know what you know, and you know what you don't know. Arrogance is, I know everything, and I'm going to tell you and show you that. And I'm going to dominate that room, dominate that situation. What are some of the pitfalls, guys, when a guy tips over a man or a woman in our industry, or just generally in life that you see, that what happens when they tip over on the arrogance scale and they are being arrogant? What happens? What are some of the pitfalls, the downsides of that tip?
Well, I think people tend to distance themselves, right? To people who choose, okay, this guy, he thinks he knows everything. So why would you want to be around that person? And again, that's, if we're talking about sales, that's probably the worst thing that you can do. But hungry, humble, and smart. Let's talk about that for 1 second. Let me tell you, when you find those kinds of men, Danny Shard and I will hire you tomorrow, today. Hungry, humble, and smart, right, Dan? We love hungry, humble, and smart.
Love them.
Love it. Danny, what do you do? I love, Brian, that is so right on. That the people will start distancing yourself. You're going to lose on that. And I think we all have been in places and in time, at least for me, I think anyone who does things in public and at certain times our confidence can get a little too high and we have to pull it back. And I call it disenfranchise others. We just kind of set them apart and we don't give them the value that they truly deserve. What are you thinking when you're talking to our sales partners, Danny, to be able to identify quickly the difference between confidence and arrogance? And what do you do with a person that's truly arrogant?
You just continue to try to work with them. I mean, you can't come out to a partner or somebody that you work with unless you're really close and good friends with them. You can't come out and say, dude, you need to reel it in, right? You're a little over the top with this. It doesn't work that way. A lot of partners I think are arrogant in a sense that, that they've made some really good sales over the course of their career. And, that cocky is quickly turned into arrogance and they're saying, oh, whatever, to heck with that merchant, or they go in with that mentality of almost forceful selling because they're the know-it-all. And some people will respond to that and most won't. I love Brian's response of people will distance themselves. And I think anybody in a sales industry will see sales starting to drop, and people start to distance themselves whenever, they get to that point and they get to that tipping point and things start going in a different direction. And that's a reality check, right? That's whenever, if you can't identify that you're the problem, that you're the one that's pushing people away, then, you're going to see things continue to move away from you. So I think a lot of times people just need to take a step back and kind of reel it in, because that confidence can quickly turn into arrogance, and a lot of times it's not even intentional.
Aren't those people who supposedly know it all? Those are the kinds of people that when you're in the grocery store and you see them down the aisle, they don't see you. You go to the next aisle, right?
That's exactly.
Not that I've ever done that.
Well, that's totally true. And but what I would say is sometimes you just want to grab somebody and say, "What the are you going to do?" And I think with the thing about arrogance is what you need to do, and this is like part of that humility part, is all of us are going to tip over that are in confidence at some point into arrogance in certain areas of our life, and we need to surround ourselves with people that will speak into us. And the problem is if you have either all yes people around you, or you are never putting yourself in situations where people feel confident enough to be able to tell you need to get your together, then that becomes a problem for you, and it's going to tip over. It's going to cause crisis, and you're never going to get to the success that you really, truly, ultimately do. The other thing, Danny, I think you're totally also in our industry, that confidence, that false confidence. When we get a big sale, we realize, it's back to who moved my cheese. We're so fearful of change, and we get left behind. It's a blockbuster principle in a smaller, microcosm. Hey, just because you got this one sale doesn't mean you know how to sell to every other type of merchant exactly like this. We need to always be in a learning concept and also then in a general sharing. Hey, I'm going to teach others and I'm going to pay it forward. So moving on, guys, to number 4, the Pay, Protect, Reopen Guide, part number 3. I've been writing some things for some websites we're putting together on the Reopen Guide, and so this is me just fleshing out some of those things that I've already written. But one of the things I wrote about was this now more than ever, and get me clear to this, is it's just a necessity, and it is absolutely needed that every merchant, every business is communicating, really over-communicating to their constituents. And so that communication can come in all different ways, whether they're customers of a retail, whether they're, it could come through social media, it could come through hosting the daily high five, it can come through sending emails, it can come through one-on-one phone calls, it can come from text messages. It can come from signage that's in your store now that you're beginning to reopen, but you need to communicate and over communicate. You need to find your tone. Gentlemen, what are some of the things you think? One, how do businesses make sure that they're collecting and being able to get in contact? Because I'm pretty sure what happened in the middle of March, in fact, I'm pretty sure I know, are a lot of merchants suddenly went, well, crud, how do I talk to my customers when they can't come in and see me every day? I don't have their phone number. I don't have a way to their email. I don't have any way to contact them. And then what are those things we should be communicating as we start thinking and brainstorming? What are the things that they should be hearing from their customers should be hearing from the people that are the merchants that are serving them? Danny, what do you think?
So what are the things that partners should be communicating to merchants?
No, this is on the business side. So what should merchants be communicating to their customers? Sorry,
No, you're good.
I got over my skis and got too many words in front of me. All right.
You're good. I think right now it's really, I mean, like Brian was mentioning on a previous conversation before about, obviously trying to do some unique specials and things like that just to drive in business, but the importance of staying safe and still letting them know that they're there, right? I mean, communication right now is so key. And, it's tough for these restaurants and these liquor stores and auto repair places to really stay communicating with their customers. The majority of these places haven't been collecting customer contact data, right? They've got a lot of loyal customers, but they're not getting cell phones and email addresses and things like that, nor did they ever need to. So I think it's been eye-opening for a lot of businesses to try and start capturing that information just so they can continue pushing out there, because a lot of these SMBs that we deal with have a loyal customer base, but they just don't know how to contact them, right? So they're trying new things, social media, radio, whatever it is, just to stay relevant and keep their name out there with a lot of their customers. But it's eye-opening to them. So I think they're going to start looking for ways to capture some of that information so they can stay in front of them.
That's a great answer. And it's funny that we bring this topic up, because I actually have talked to some of my merchants here this week, last week, and I said exactly that. They need to start collecting email addresses from every single person that walks in the door or picks up food to take out or whatever, and get themselves a database of those people and start just mass emailing and sending emails to every single customer they have of all the specials or a thank you or whatever it is, to stay in contact with those people.
Yeah. It's so important, guys, to make sure that we're getting as many ways to communicate, and then finding your voice. Because what's happened, I think, in most merchants, I don't know if it's most, I don't know what the exact number is, but the way we've communicated is we've advertised. Here's what I have to sell. Come to me and come buy it. Well, when we get into places like we've been in with the COVID pandemic crisis, as well as when we're actually realizing how to be most successful, we turn that advertising into a communication that is actually more person to person, not just business to person, business to consumer. And we always talk B2C, B2B. Well, we have to figure out, and it's become a little bit cliche almost, how to get that voice and that person-to-person communication. And this is more than ever. You need to be able to give statements of empathy. You need to be able to help people know, okay, this is what you need to do, and this is what I'm doing to protect you. We know your problem and your fear that what's going on, and these are the things I'm going to do to protect you. And so if you don't have an email, then you have to figure out ways to do it. You can do it through social media. Start getting that Facebook page revved up and start putting things in it and trying to do it. You can do it through try any way to do it. Just try to get that communication going out there, and then allowing your business, and each business has a unique voice to that come out. So, with small independent proprietorships, it's just usually the voice of the owner. But others, it may be a different voice. If you're selling surfer wear, your voice is going to be very different from the person that's selling eyeglasses. And as you do that, you have to communicate. The other thing I was thinking about, guys, we talked about this a little bit in social distancing yesterday, but how important it is to make sure you're clearly communicating for those who are in an in-store experience, whether it's through signage and then clearly communicating with your employees. Because I've been talking to some people who have been out and about. I have not gone to a lot of stores or gone to a restaurant yet, but it's a different experience. Everybody's wearing masks, everything. but you can set a lot of things aside by clearly communicating expectations and care in the in-store, in-restaurant experience inside the brick and the mortar. What are some of the things you think are important to communicate, guys, inside the actual business when it's a point of sale is happening inside a room or a building?
Yeah, right now it's safety. It's easy ways to take a payment, like Apple Pay, contactless payments. But safety, I think, is key and the biggest thing communicated. It's kind of what we were talking about. And I love that this is part of the Reopen Guide, because we're doing our best to try and educate partners on what we're hearing from everybody in the marketplace that merchants really need to be doing to help customers feel safe as they start reopening, right? And a lot of that communication is really just coming from signage and just keeping people aware of the current situation we're in. And that although, you're going back to the store, it's not back to normal yet, right? Stay away from people, right? Just kind of just keep those constant reminders flowing. I think that's the biggest thing that needs to be communicated right now, and that a lot of businesses are going after. And it doesn't even have to necessarily be a sign, right? We're seeing a lot of merchants setting up the sneeze shields and even providing masks or gloves, sanitation wipes at the entrance, at the point of purchase, all of these things. And those are signs in and of themselves, right? It's basically just reminders to people to stay clean and stay safe and stay away from each other. So I think that's the biggest and most important things that merchants need to be communicating right now.
Brian, have you had any unique communications either from your merchants or merchants that you go to and businesses that you have been using that you're saying, man, they've communicated really well, and I want to give props to that?
Yeah, well, I mean, again, I just think, in today's day, this coronavirus has been obviously a detriment to a lot of people, a lot of businesses. But the good news is today, with all the social media out there, Facebook, Twitter, whatever, Instagram, I just think that the businesses can communicate with their customers better now than ever, right? Can you imagine if this happened, 30, 40 years ago, there'd be no way to communicate with anybody. You'd have to drive by to see if the place was open. So I think those businesses that are staying, on social media and communicating that way, for example, if you want to know if a business is open for takeout or what they're doing or what the menu is, you're going on Facebook and you're checking it out. And, think about it. 30, 40 years ago, you weren't able to do that.
That is so true. All right, gentlemen, it's time to move on to number 5 as we go into our talking about the selling with integrity. We've been learning all week about what would Brian and Danny do if they were starting from scratch. We started with prospects. Yesterday we talked about qualifying that lead, and then now you're starting to communicate to that lead, to the person that you've prospected. You've gotten, that they're a merchant that you can help and serve in some way. And now, how do you establish that you are bringing value? What are the first things you can do? And so I'm going to ask in different ways. One, if you're able to do it person to person, but also what can you do through email and through the phone to establish value? Danny, what were you thinking when you first started thinking about how do I make sure that I can bring value to this conversation and help them understand that I am bringing value to their business?
For me, it's more than just the immediate savings and the better POS solutions. Obviously those are the huge selling points that are really going to get them to migrate over. But, for me, it starts with support, local support, being present, being available, and a lot of times even being able to leverage and let the merchant know of other merchants that they probably know of, right? And kind of start name dropping a little bit and give yourself some clouts that the merchant can relate to and feel confident with that you support some of these other businesses. So for me, it's the support that's really going to help you stand out and establish that as you're starting the relationship out with the merchant. And granted, that's coming from me. I've probably got 100 merchants over the years, but my blood is really running with partners, and so I'd love to hear from all of you and what you do to do this, because I think you guys are the real professionals at this, even more than me.
Absolutely. And that's what I hope is, as we continue to do these things, that people will continue to share and tell us ideas and that we share together in our community. Brian, when you're communicating someone for the first time, you're just in the beginning part of the relationship, how do you help them understand the value that you can bring to their restaurant, their retail, their business?
Well, I mean, I guess the easy answer here is rule number 5, right? Don't sell price. And, I think that's the biggest mistake salespeople make, especially in today's day. Back in the old days, again, you could walk, oh, I'm cheaper than the other guy. Actually, cheaper wasn't the word we used, right? It was cost effective. I'm more cost effective than the other guy. Today, I think people are just tired of hearing that. And that's why, again, rule number 5, don't sell price. I think you just get in there and talk to people about, like, hey, you know what? I don't know if I can save you any money. Honestly, I mean, how do I know that without looking at a statement? So, so I think if you can get a statement from a merchant, and a lot of them, I think you'd be surprised at how many of them are actually willing to give it up, especially, if you're coming in there and you're being sincere about it. And, hey, you know what? We'll do a free analysis for you. And, again, I'll be back here in 3 or 4 days and we can sit down and talk about it.
Love that. I mean, one of the things I think for me, gentlemen, is I was tying these together when I put these questions together at 3 a.m. this morning, and I was thinking of the idea that walking in or getting on the phone, it's that fine line of selling value is helping the merchant that you're dealing with for the first time, really, and helping them get to know you, is that confidence versus arrogance, and it's helping them start to believe that you have a way to help them. And so making sure how you're presenting, so don't sell on price, but also making sure that you walk in with that confidence that they know, hey, these people really want to help my business. And so it's how do you communicate that? And that's positioning with statements or making sure that you ask more questions. Brian, you always talk about that a lot than you do about statements about, hey, I can do this for you, I can do that for you. Instead, making sure you understand their business and show that you understand how to understand their business, because that you have that experience, you've been around the block. And even if you're new to the industry, whatever that industry you're selling in is, and in our industry and the merchant services POS, even if you just simply share, hey, this is what I do know from my experiences, and this is what I don't know, I think that goes a long way. How much is, when it comes to giving value to a merchant and establishing that credibility, how much is trust a part of that, Brian? Let's go, Danny.
Huge. It's massive. But they have to, either have somewhat of a relationship with you, whether it's through a referral or know you from from another competitor or something like that. But you've got to be able to establish trust quickly, and a lot of that can be through that referral relationship or even just knowledge as what you're talking about, and letting them vet you, right? I think giving them some information, people that can call on to make sure you're the real deal, so to speak. That's really how you're going to establish that quickly and be able to take the conversation further.
And
I agree.
And Brian, last thing, as we finish up this, as we're bringing that value, what are ways you can, you talk about reading the room all the time. You've talked about it today. When you're reading that conversation, and you're whether it's on the phone or hopefully at times and in person, maybe you're even going to do like a FaceTime or a Zoom meeting where you're at least looking at each other. How do you read when they're not getting it? They're not confident that you're actually bringing the value. And when you read that, what do you do?
Well, again, that's a really good question, and that's a hard thing to do. I think I you know what, I honestly believe you stop talking. And you figure out a way to get them to continue to talk. And, how do you do that? I think every situation is different, but when you're talking and trying to talk over somebody, I think you realize that right away. Maybe not right away, but into the conversation. And I think you just have to stop talking. And even if it's, hey, you know what, you seem busy. You know what, I'll be around, in a couple of days, and let me stop by then when you have a little bit more time. I just think that's again, that's respecting your merchant, and it's a tough thing to do for sure.
Well, as a professional that I am, I'm going to make an incredible transition, and a high five is going to come to an end because, Brian, we need to stop talking now. But as we close out, I want to remind you that every morning we are here around 10 o'clock. Today we got launched around 10:13 because some mornings, it just takes a little bit longer for us to get the little hamster wheels going in Brian's brain. But all that is here every day. We're here. We'd love it, whether you're watching live or you're watching afterwards. Love to hear your comments. I'm so thankful when I'm talking to you. A lot of you are messaging. You can leave the comments any way you want to communicate with us. We're here, and we're here to be part of yours. Today at 3 o'clock, or excuse me, not 3 o'clock, 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, we are doing Go Over the Edge, where we are literally going over the edge. That is the edge processing with Mr. Danny Shard. You can go to papertech.live and watch it. I'm going to be sending out another email here in just a few minutes when I get off of here, reminding all of our partner base, if you're not on our email, you can always email me anytime at nmanahan@papertech.com. Now we're going to finish up. Let me get some music going in the background here, a little bit of groove. Drive and have Mr. Brian Linke and Danny Shard say their last things before they stop talking. Gentlemen, last words for a Wednesday.
Well, if there's anything you should ever tune into or watch, it's this thing 1 o'clock Eastern with Danny talking about our new Edge program. So for all our partners that are listening out there, 1 o'clock Eastern time, we look forward to seeing you there.
Yep, and if you can jump on, call me, call Brian. We're going to be able to help you. We want partners to be educated on selling Edge, the importance of it, presenting it to merchants, and really just how to get it out there more in their market. So join us today, and if you can't, give us a call. We'll help you.
All right, that's a great time to have a high five. Thank you, Danny. Thank you, Brian. We'll be here again tomorrow. Nate. This is a good time to finish, and remember that this is the high five. We'll see you tomorrow, guys. Let's dance it out and have a little fun.
Discussions are there to show about nothing and everything. It's all the same. We've got sports, entertainment, sales, and marketing. It's time for the high five. We've got it all covered. It's time for the high five. We've got it all covered. Yeah. The high five.
The high five.